Now, this can be used as a wreath too. I use this as a wall hanging in my entryway and I love it. It is a wood round from the hardware store. I actually got it at Home Depot. I think it was around $10 the time I bought it. And what I'm going to try to do is attempt sublimation on raw wood. Not technically something that doesn't work, but not something that is typically done. But I had a sublimation printer and I wanted to try it out. Now, if you're not set up for sublimation, don't worry. You could always make a stencil of some kind, add your name to it, or just hand paint it. I just wanted to try this underneath what we're going to do. This is going to be a giant patriotic sign, but I want it to be like a home sign that I can use every year. So I'm cutting out the individual pieces and kind of arranging them on there using heat tape and taping down my sublimation paper that, again, I printed in a mirror image so that we can try sublimation. So I try 400 for 1 minute. I always like experimenting, and that seemed to work really well. My easy press is not super large though, so I have to break it up and do separate sections, 400 for 1 minute. I can tell that I had some bleeding right there at the K where I overlapped, so that's not the greatest, but we'll make it work. I wanted to do like a paint stain over this to make this kind of look like a flag. And I kind of wanted the sublimation of our name to kind of shine through. So kind of like a wood burning almost. This was totally an experiment, but it was super fun. So like I put the Telkin family. I'm going to put like some other details on there, like established 2002 along the bottom. And again, you have to use heat tape if you're going to do sublimation. I need to get back into sublimation. I don't hardly ever do it anymore, but it's so much fun. You can make so many things with it. And I love experimenting with things like this, like raw wood. Using it just on the raw wood. I didn't add any kind of vinyl or anything like that. Just straight on the wood. And just using whatever iron I can find there at the moment. We're going to get this on here. And I think that looks as good as it's going to look. I'm going to give it a quick sand. I was a little worried about the bleeding in my sublimation, that you were going to be able to see it in the final product. So what I do is I do have some paint about the same color as my wood round. And I'm going to try to go in here and just touch it up a little bit before I go in and add the colors to see if I can kind of disguise that a little bit. I promise you guys 20 DIYs today. I'm bringing it, man, with 20 DIYs. This is a long video. I'm trying not to lose my voice here. Now, I want to do like a quadrant up here in the corner. And so I'm just using some printer paper and some painter's tape. And I'm just going to block that off to kind of protect that area of my wood round. And I want to paint it to look like a coastal flag, right? So I'm going to have to do stripes. So again, I'm using Dollar Tree painter's tape. We're going to continue that line straight across. And then you can just use little pieces like that to space that out fairly evenly. And we're going to do just a simple flag stripe pattern all the way up to the top here. And these wood rounds from Home Depot, like super sturdy, super heavy. I did have to kind of reinforce the hanger on this and stuff. But definitely fun to craft with. I've also used these with my Cricut, and they are beautiful, nice thick pieces of wood. And just going all the way down to the bottom with my painter's tape flag stripes, and then we can get started at decorating this. Now I'm going to use a roller from the, I don't think this one's from Dollar Tree. I think this one's just from Target. And some bright red candy apple acrylic paint. I'm going to mix that half and half with water because I want to kind of do that paint stain like I tried to do with my shelf sitter outside over this wood, so we can still get that great wood grain in the final project. So, and I want you to be able to read our name through it, right? So you want it to be very thin. So I'm just going to use a roller because it's such a big project, and we're going to go all around our little flag, just staining that. And then I use a baby wipe over it to kind of wipe off any of the excess. And you can only see those areas that I kind of touched up a little bit. Didn't take the stain, which I was kind of worried about, but we'll make it work. And then I'm going to do the same thing here on the top part of our flag. And all the way around all the edges too. Just kind of distressing that and that same red stain. And see, the areas of the paint totally didn't take the stain. Probably should have touched it up later rather than beginning, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and peel off my painter's tape. The Dollar Tree painter's tape, I mean, it's not the best. You're going to get some bleeding. Luckily, I kind of had that color, so I can kind of touch that up if I need to. But basically, we're just taking all of this off now. And what I have is that beautiful red stripe. That's what I was trying to go for on my shelf sitter that we made for outside. I didn't get it because I didn't really like how I taped it before, but it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? And the sublimation worked. I mean, you can definitely see it through the paint. So I'm just going to use some of that red paint to try to touch up the areas, you know, where I had painted before. And then going back with that tan paint to kind of touch up my edges. That was really the areas where I had the most bleeding. Just to make that look a little bit better before we finish this off. Okay, so now we need to kind of reverse tape what we did before. So we're going to go to the edges of the stripes that we did and mark that off with some painter's tape. And we can go in and do this section in blue. I want to use acrylic for this as well. I'm using like a bright turquoise mixed half and half with water to create a turquoise stain for this part. And then we're just going to go over that little quadrant of the sign with that beachy blue color. I love the red and blue together. It's so fun. And again, I just wanted a thin coat, so I go over that with a baby wipe and wipe off any of the excess paint and stain. And I am going to have to touch it up a little bit just because of the bleeding. But all in all, I would say that the sublimation underneath the paint stain worked. It does kind of look like a wood burning, right? And it's definitely going to be permanent for sure. Just kind of touching that up after removing my tape. And I really like that flag feel on the wood round shape. I think that's super fun. So I let this dry, and then what I'm going to do is kind of touch it up a little bit here and there, but I'm also going to distress it to make it, you know, look very coastal, a farmhouse. And so I'm going to use a little ivory chalk paint and a chunky brush, and we're going to go over the whole thing, giving it a little bit of a whitewash feel. And again, it's the red and wood stripes. It's not really red and white, but that light wood gives you that same kind of effect, right? Just to give it that more coastal farmhouse. And I did go over it a couple of times and distressed it heavily. I want it to look really old and weathered, and I sanded that down as well. Now, I want to treat this with polyacrylic too, just in case I want to hang this outside. I actually might hang this outside this year. It's definitely a really cool piece, and I want to seal it and make sure that all of my hard work stays on there. The sublimation, I would say it was a success. Maybe if I had a bigger heat press, I wouldn't have had the bleeding issue, which did cause me some issues, but all in all, I like it. If you're not set up for sublimation, though, you could probably get the same effect by doing a stencil with maybe some, you could do a wood burn marker, and use your heat gun, or you could also use like those little wood finish markers from the hardware store or hardware aisle at the Dollar Tree. That would work as well. Now we are going to border this out with some white rope from the Dollar Tree. I love a good rope frame. I do want to use it to make a hanger as well. So I just tied a loop like that at the top. So we would have a nice coastal hanger at the top. And then we can glue that all the way around this giant wood round sign. Now, this is what I talked about when I had to reinforce it a little bit, because I am going to use hot glue to attach it to the sides, but it's big and heavy. So I also used some nails as well, because I want to make sure that that hanger stays attached to the top. But just hot gluing it all the way around. And this definitely has this old time looking sign, like maybe it was weathered. It's been around since 2002, way back when we said I do. I was trying to decide on there what year you put on there. Do you put like the year that you were married, or do you put like the year that you like lived together, right? I went with the married year. And then this is the reinforcement. I just take some nails and I'm just going to nail those right into the top of the rope, straight into the wood round, just to reinforce that a little bit, because I didn't know if it was going to be strong enough. And I'm trying to show you, but it's almost too big. But here it is. My family patriotic sign definitely has a coastal vibe, and we even tried some sublimation on it just for fun.